Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 5 of The Suitcase Kid by Jacqueline Wilson. Continuing from page 97, P is for photographs. Dad's got a camera. We're back to the old routine now, 1 week at Mum's, 1 week at Dad's. You know, as easy as ABC. Carrie was a bit huffy at first because she'd had a social worker around to check up on things. And she said everywhere is spotless, said Carrie. You tell your mother that. We might be a bit untidy, but the flat is perfectly clean, and she said that Zen and Crystal are delightful, intelligent children, who have obviously had a lot of loving care and stimulation. The delightful and intelligent twins were having a fierce pillow fight as she spoke, lovingly and carefully stimulating the pillows until they both burst, simultaneously, and scattered a snow of feathers. Carrie just laughed. Even Dad didn't get cross. He got his camera and took lots of photos. You'll wear that camera out before the baby's even born, said Carrie, still laughing. She turned to me. I bought your dad this second-hand camera so he can take lots of photos when the baby's been born. Won't that be lovely? I stared at her. I know how babies are born, of course. I don't think they were going to be the sort of photos you could put on a silver frame and prop on top of the television set. Dad saw me looking doubtful. I want to take lots of photos for my number 1 daughter too, he said. Come on, Andy, give us a smile. I gave him a smile, and then another. And then I put my hand on my hip and gave him a little wave. And then I pointed a toe, and then I pirouetted round the room, Dad going snap, snap, snap. That's the girl, Andy. Hey, that's great. You've really got the idea, haven't you? It was wonderful. I felt like a film star. Crystal came and joined in, and she smiled and waved and pointed too. But she didn't do it as naturally as me, and Zen was hopeless, galumphing about and pulling hideous faces at the camera. No, Andy's the star model, said Carrie. Here, let's dress her up like a real model, eh? Come and help me choose some clothes, Crystal, and we'll make her up and give her a posh hairdo. Would you like that, Andy? I liked it enormously. Carrie dressed me up in one of her long, droopy, fancy frocks, and Crystal draped a shawl around my shoulders and stuck a ring on every finger. Carrie stroked dark shadow on my eyelids and purple lipstick around my mouth, and then brushed my hair up into a crazy kind of bun. Crystal squirted me all over with scent, even though it wouldn't show in a photograph. Then we had a long posing session, Dad snapping away until he eventually ran out of film. He developed the photographs himself, blundering around the bathroom in the pitch dark. I couldn't wait to see the finished photographs. I felt as if I'd been transformed into this new grown-up, magical, pretty person. I looked for her in the photographs, but I just saw myself, looking a bit funny in a long frock with stuff smeared all over my face. I don't like them. Tear them up, Dad. I look awful, I said hastily. No, they're very good. The lighting's a bit haywire, and you're out of focus here and there, but on the whole, they're great, said Dad. You look great, Andy, said Carrie. You know what? You'll have to be fashion model when you grow up. You're nice and tall already. Fashion models have to be very tall. I didn't know that. I thought about the idea. Maybe the photographs weren't too bad after all. Dad gave me some copies to show to Mum when it was her turn to have me. Oh, for heaven's sake, said Mum. Look at the way they've got you up. You look awful, Andy, and all that dreadful makeup, and you're wearing that Carrie's clothes. Why on earth couldn't your father take some proper photos of you in your own clothes instead of all dolled up like a dog's dinner? I was being a fashion model, Mum. Carrie said I could be a model when I grow up. She did, Mum, honestly. She would, said Mum, shuddering. Fashion models aren't fat, said Katie, poking me in the tummy. I can go on a diet when I grow up, I said, but I was starting to wish I hadn't taken the photos with me. But then Paula came and had a look. Don't you look grown up, Andy? No one would ever think you were only 10. You look almost as old as me. That pleased me quite a lot. And then Graham had a quick shuffle through the photos too. Don't, Graham. I look such a twit, I said, going hot. Yeah, you said it, Andy Pandy, said Katie. I think you look pretty, said Graham. That pleased me even more. Q is for questions. What's Miss Maynard on about in this letter, Andy? She's moaning about all your dental appointments, saying it would be better if you could go after school. But you haven't had any dental appointments, have you? You went for a checkup in the summer, and you didn't even need any fillings. So what's going on, Andy? Andy? How did you do in your English test, Andy? And how's the old arithmetic getting on? Why won't you let me see your school books nowadays? You're still top of the class, aren't you, Andy? What's the matter? Come along, Andrea. Answer the question. It's no use looking at Aileen. She's not going to tell you. You weren't paying attention, were you? It's simply not good enough. Do you want to end up a complete dunce? Is that it? Who's been mucking around with my tights? They're all wet and soapy. You've been messing about with your little rabbit again, haven't you? How are things working out for you and Radish, Andrea? Do you mind going from house A to house B and back again? Do you know what time it is, Andy Pandy? Time to go home. Only you haven't got a home anymore, have you? R is for Radish. I didn't dare stay off school for a bit because Mum went to see Miss Maynard and they had a long talk. I'm not ever going to be able to make out I've got to go to the dentist now, even if I get a gum boil and half my fillings fall out. I can't even get a cold or a cough or a tummy upset. Miss Maynard showed Mum my forged sick notes, and then Mum told Dad, so I won't even be able to swing things when I'm at his place. I have to stay at boring old school, even though the teachers just shout at me now, and Aileen and Fiona whisper secrets and won't play with me properly, and I keep coming bottom in all the tests. I can't even go to the garden for long after school because Mum knows what time I should be back at her place, and even though she's not there, Katie always tells on me. It's even worse when I'm at Dad's. Carrie comes to meet me off the bus, and she looks awful now with her great huge bump, and I'm scared people will think she's a proper relative instead of just a stupid stepmother. I just have time to charge down Larkspur Lane, climb over the gate, give Radish one quick sail across the lake and back, maybe let her take a 2-minute trek in the grassy jungle, and then it's home time again. Home again, jiggity jig, only I haven't got a home anymore, and Radish seems to be getting a bit fed up with my pocket. I wish I could make a real home for her. I tried making her a Japanese bag out of one of Dad's hankies, and then I thought about making her a proper little Japanese house, but Crystal kept trailing around after me, asking what I was doing. And then when I got the big box of kitchen matches to construct a wooden house, Carrie suddenly swooped and snatched them away. I'm sorry, Andy, but I can't let you play with matches. I'm not going to play with them. I'm going to make something with them. Yes, it's going to be a little house, and she's made a tiny screen out of a cigarette packet and a baby tree out of a bit of twig, and she's going to make Radish a special frock called a kimono. Crystal burbled. Shut up, Crystal, I hissed, because it would only get spoilt if everyone knew. It was spoilt anyway. Carrie still wouldn't let me have the matches. I did try to think of making the house with something else, but then Zen trod on the screen after I'd spent ages colouring in little tiny Japanese things all over it. Carrie helped me a bit. In fact, she did the drawing part, and she had the ideas, and Zen kept pestering, and eventually he just went stamp. Carrie said we could do another screen, but I said no thanks. I didn't really want her poking her nose in anyway. I wanted it to be a secret for Radish, and me, with no one else involved, not even Crystal. I tried again when I was at Mum's. I snaffled an old shoebox, and I spent ages getting all the thread off some cotton reels, but Katie was poisonous. Oh, how sweet. Little Andy Pandy's playing house with her dinky toy rabbit. I think it's quite a dodgy sight. I have a feeling this is an earthquake area. What's that? Did you feel a tremor? Whoops. She reached out, and Radish in her home went flying. So then I reached out, and Katie went flying. Mum was furious, and wouldn't even listen why. I've told you, Andy. You are not to hit Katie, no matter what. You must stop this disgraceful bullying, especially when Katie's so much smaller than you. And as if that wasn't enough, Katie deliberately pulled 2 buttons off her school blouse. Mum saw and tutted and went to her sewing box, and then I got into another row because she said I'd mucked up all her thread. I was in so much trouble that I decided I might just as well stay for ages in the Larkspur Lane garden and miss my bus. Miss 2 buses, even 3. Katie could blab all she liked to Mum as I'd stopped caring. Do you hear that, Radish? I said as we climbed over the gate. We can stay here as long as you like. Radish wriggled excitedly in my hand. She could hardly wait till I got her boat unpacked from my satchel. She hopped on board and was soon sailing across the lake, expertly skimming her way through the shoals of orange whales. I let her sail under her own steam, squatting down on the muddy shore and watching her. But after a while it got a bit cold and damp, so I found a long twiggy stick and started propelling her around the lake in uncharted territory. Together we discovered Step Creek and Lily Land, and for a while we got caught up in the foetid swamps of Waterweed Bog. But we escaped at last, after Radish heroically hacked her way through with her bare paws and my scrabbling fingernails. She was a bit tired of sailing after that, and we both got very wet, so we ran around and round the lake to get warm. We were hungry too, and looked longingly at the mulberry tree, but the berries were long since over. I searched the lining of my satchel and salvaged a few biscuit crumbs, but they weren't much of a feast for Radish, and they didn't help my hunger at all. I don't have a watch, but I knew it was tea time. I was really late now. It was starting to get dark. Mum would be back from work, and she'd be so cross. She'd tell the baboon, and he'd have another go at me, and Katie would give a smug little smile and then whisper about it half the night. I wouldn't even be able to cry because she'd see. I leant against the mulberry tree, clutching Radish in my fist, and had a bit of a cry there. But then, as I moved about to stop my face getting scratched, my hand holding Radish suddenly slipped over a branch and went into a little hole. "Radish, come back!" But Radish was running about inside the dark little hole, getting excited. It was just like a secret cave. I tried to peer in, but it was getting too dark to see properly. Radish insisted that she could see. She loved the little hole, only it wasn't a hole to her. She wanted me to help her make it into a proper home. Not a proper permanent home, but a holiday home for her visits to the lake. "Okay, Radish, we'll make it really cosy for you. We could get some moss for a soft green carpet, and I could stick some shiny leaves together to make matching curtains. And we'll have to see about some sort of light, because I can't see in the dark, even if you can." And at that moment, a light went on. Not inside the hole, outside, in the big house behind me. It made me jump, and my hand jerked, and then suddenly, Radish wasn't there. "Radish? Radish, where are you? Come back! Come here!" I said, feeling frantically, and then I felt the drop at the back of the hole. I pushed my arm in as far as I would go. I scrabbled and stretched, but it was no use. Radish had fallen out of my reach. "Radish!" I screamed, and then the door opened, and there was a dark figure in the garden, and I had to tear my arm out of the tree and run for it. S is for Starlight. "Where on earth have you been?" Mum shouted. I was too choked up to answer properly. "I was just playing," I mumbled. "Playing," said Mum, and she smacked me hard across the face. We both gasped. She's never hit me before. Then I burst into tears, and Mum did too. "Oh, Andy," she said, and she was suddenly hugging me tight. I'm sorry. I was just so worried, and I've been phoning everyone. I phoned Miss Maynard, and I had to phone your father, and he blames me for going out to work. And yet if he'd pay his share of the bills, then I wouldn't have to, and... Oh, darling, never mind all that. All that matters is you're safe." "But Radish isn't," I said, and I started really howling. I'd held it in while waiting for the first bus, and then on the journey, and then on the second bus, and then on the walk back to Mum's place. But now the full awfulness washed over me like a giant wave. "I've lost Radish," I sobbed, and I buried my head in Mum's shoulder so I could shut out all the other faces around me. Graham looked sympathetic, and Paula patted my shoulder, but Katie had her eyebrows raised in mock amazement, and the baboon looked impatient. "For goodness sake, is that why she's so late? Because she lost her little toy?" he said, sighing. "She's not a toy. She's a mascot," I shouted. Hey, no need to take that tone. Look, your poor mum's been worried sick. You're 2 hours late, young lady. It's just not good enough." "Yes, I know, Bill, but Radish is very special to Andy," said Mum, still holding me close. "All the same, it seems a bit daft to have the whole family going demented because she's lost a little rabbit that isn't even real." "She is real to me." "Come on now, Andy, calm down. You really are being a bit of a baby, you know," said Mum. She said it quietly, but the others could still hear. I pulled away from her. "Andy, now, don't be like that. Look, maybe Radish isn't lost forever. When did you last see her? Did she drop out of your pocket on the way home?" "She fell down inside a tree," I whispered, thinking of poor little Radish, tumbling backwards down the dark hole. "Which tree?" said Mum, but I couldn't tell her, because I'd get into more trouble for going into someone else's garden. Oh, how could I have run off like that, and left my Radish down in the depths of the mulberry tree? And she wasn't the only thing I'd abandoned in my hurry to save my own skin. "I've lost your lovely little boat too, Graham," I said, crying harder. "Never mind, look, I can easily make you another," Graham said gruffly. "But there can't ever be another Radish," I said, sobbing. "Of course there can," said the baboon. "I'll get you a new one in the morning. They sell them in the toy shop down the road. Katie had some of those Sylvanian family things when she was little." The little stung, but I was so overwhelmed with misery and guilt, I hardly cared. "I don't want a new Sylvanian family. I want Radish." Radish hadn't died. She hadn't stopped being. She was still there, alone in the dark tree, probably hurt, certainly very lonely and scared. She'd been wondering where on earth I was, why I wasn't coming to rescue her. "I've got to go back," I said desperately. "I can't reach her, but I could call down to her, try to comfort her." "Don't be so silly, darling," said Mum. "You're certainly not going out again. You're going to have some tea and a nice hot bath, and then you're going straight to bed." There was no arguing with her. There was a lot of arguing going on, but that was between Mum and Dad, because Dad came round to see if I was safe, and then started up all the old rows. My hand kept reaching out for Radish, and then clenching in despair. It was even worse when I went to bed. I couldn't remember ever going to sleep without Radish. She always tucked into my hand, and I put my finger in between her dear little ears, and rubbed her soft, furry forehead until I went to sleep. So now, of course, I couldn't possibly sleep. I lay awake for hour after hour. Mum crept in to see me and gave me a special kiss and tucked me up, while Katie made vomit noises from the next bed. But it didn't help. I heard Graham go to bed, then Paula, then Mum and the baboon. Soon the whole household was asleep except me and Katie. She started. Down a tree is she, Andy Pandy, in with all the bugs and spiders, eh? You get lots of creepy crawlies inside trees, and maybe some birds fallen down the hole too, and died, and your little radish is lying on its corpse. Yeah, all the maggots are going wiggle, wiggle, wiggle all over her, and she won't even be able to cry for help, because rabbits don't talk. She's just opening her little mouth and screaming silently, wondering why you didn't come. I am coming, I said. I got out of bed and started pulling on my clothes. What are you doing, you dope? Kate whispered. What do you think I'm doing? I'm going to comfort Radish, I said, pulling on a jumper. But it's after midnight. You can't go out. Just watch. But your mum. I don't care. She won't know. And if you tell her, I'll tell you're such a scared baby you won't even lie down properly to go to sleep. And I know why, and I'll tell everyone. If you tell on me, understand? She understood all right. She still looked worried. Andy, you are just kidding, aren't you? You can't really go out in the middle of the night. Look, those things I said about Radish, I was just making them up to annoy you. They're not true. They could be, I said, and I put on my coat and wound a scarf around my neck. But it's so dark outside, said Katie. She was wrong about that. When I'd crept down the stairs and out the front door, I looked up and saw there was a big round moon and hundreds of stars shining in the sky. I saw the pole star, shining brighter than all the others. I threw back my head, staring at it until my eyes watered, and I whispered the wishing song. Starlight, star bright, first little star I see tonight. Wish that I may, wish that I might, have the first wish that I wish tonight. I wish that I can find Radish and work out a way of reaching her so that I can have her back. Please, please, please. And that is where we will leave part 5 of The Suitcase Kid by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back very soon with the next part of this fantastic story and lots more stories and videos coming your way very soon. If you would like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for your support, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.